Welcome to Boxing Scene Today here at the ProBox TV studios. Well, Bomb Squad, we know all about it. Deontay Wilder at the peak of his powers, an incredibly exciting heavyweight with knockout power. We always thought he was a little bit limited, but he did carry the division in the United States. Well, will his comeback be everything he hopes it will be? That is the question. To help me break it down, Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. When it comes to, and you had to ask his name, Tyrrell Herndon, who he's fighting on the 27th, this idea that it's about him coming back. It is about Deontay Wilder and his abilities. Is Herndon kind of an afterthought? Is everybody looking at Wilder and what he brings, Chris? Is that the question?
Yeah, without question.
Yeah.
And Herndon, he's basically just going to test to see if Wilder's okay up here. Because he doesn't break. If he's anything left, and has anything left, he goes out there and he gets starched. Richard Torres knocked this guy out.
Yes.
And so you've got, and he's also got knocked out by F.A. Ajagba, which I believe is like, he's basically a lower level Deontay Wilder, tall, long, good right hand. Right, so this is a tailor-made opponent for the return of Deontay Wilder to hopefully resurrect Bomb Squad and get himself into a big fight. Because literally, he needs one big win, and he's right back in the mix with the Anthony Joshuas of the world. And we're talking 8-figure paydays. Like this heavyweight division is something else. When you're coming from the pedigree of a Deontay Wilder and with the highlight reels that he has, one win doesn't even have to be a good win, and he gets right back in the mix.
When you look at it, I was talking years ago to Steve Farhood, of course, incredible boxing knowledge, who worked together on PBC, and it was a kind of a dead time in the heavyweight division. And I said, man, the heavyweight division is really bad right now. And he goes, it's usually bad.
Yeah.
He goes, you don't understand. He goes, the heavyweight division is usually pretty bad. It's usually not very good. He goes, it's rare in boxing history, like the mid-'90s where we had a bunch of guys at the top. Paulie, we have a very interesting heavyweight division that it's really good right now, I think, in my opinion. But we also have some guys that are a little bit faded. What we say, aging out of the division. They're looking more vulnerable. But it still makes an exciting time to be a heavyweight. As Chris said, is this the perfect time for a comeback from Deontay Wilder, who may be limited, but is still exciting and puts butts in seats?
I think if you're going to come back, you always have that opportunity to, use that pedigree, use those highlight reels, knockouts to sort of promote it. I mean, let's face it, we saw last year Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. They were using highlights from Tyson 40 years ago. It still sold the fight, right? So in today's age of technology, you can bring all those highlights back. As long as you get that win, you're back in the circle of trust.
Nostalgia sells.
Yes.
So when it comes to Wilder, there is that nostalgia. There is that, that feeling like, oh, if he gets one big knockout here against Herndon, who cares if it's a Herndon, he's still got it. If he lands that one shot, what if he lands one, it's that whole what if he lands one thing. And Wilder has that ability, right? That we've seen it countless times. He lands one and it's over. I think this is, sort of a play on that. Champ made a good point about the Anthony Joshua fight. It's still lingering out there. It was a fight that was never made that people wanted to see. At this point, it may not have world championship caliber aspirations around it, so to speak. I'm not sure if they make Wilder Joshua, if the winner of that fight can win a world championship. But certainly, you win this fight and then you move into a Joshua fight. If that happens, the winner of Joshua and Wilder certainly puts himself into a likely world championship shot, because now you're putting building blocks on top of the promotability of everything. And any champion who's trying to make a name for himself, especially that we're sort of going through a changing of the guard soon in the heavyweight division, will likely look for resume fillers. Guys who all have a big profile in the heavyweight division as ex-champions and so on and so forth. This is the way the business runs. It's the way the business works. The way the business moves along from one generation to the next. Even though today in boxing, you notice that the older statesmen tend to not want to give younger statesmen their shots, and they keep it sort of blockaded in the lower weight classes, but not in the heavyweight division. We've seen the heavyweight division. Very true. Guys are typically fighting the guys on the way up. In this generation too, we've seen Joshua fought all of them. Even Wilder fought a lot of guys. Guys are getting their shots. They just didn't fight each other. So that there's always that conversation there where it could happen, and we see things moving along in that direction. We'll see. Obviously. Is the Herndon fight that interesting? No. But is Wilder returning interesting? Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's Wilder.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's back to your initial point, your question, Jimmy. This is the Bomb Squad show. This is the Deontay Wilder show. And I'll tell you, I'd say maybe 18 months ago, maybe longer than that because I guess Deontay's been on the slide for a little bit longer than that. But like 2.5 years ago, I was like, I don't know if I really want to see Anthony Joshua fight Deontay Wilder. I'm like, I think Wilder knocks him out like early. Like right away. I think we talked about that, a couple years ago when we were doing these shows. Now I'm actually interested again. I'm like, both of them have degraded enough that I'm like, this is actually a good fight again. Yeah. Because, Deontay, I don't think that punch ever goes away. I know he hasn't done it in a while. I know he hasn't landed, but he's been fighting really tough guys. Joseph Parker, Zhilei Zhang, those are tough outs. Yeah. You're not going to.
Even Joshua, right, with Dubois
and Anthony Joshua Dubois. So like
they're competitors.
They're competitors. They've got. They're going to resurrect that grudge that they had, where they used to be. It's hard to forget where you used to be when you were at the top. And I don't know. I think this fight's actually interesting again, the Joshua and Wilder fight.
When you look at it, however, you were telling a story about Kevin Rooney coming over to your house several years ago. Kevin Rooney, in the famous upset, Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas, when interviewed about that, he said, what I noticed was Mike wasn't punching in the first couple rounds. What happened is Buster Douglas started gaining confidence, started punching himself. When you look at this being a mental test, I'll start with you, Paulie. If he walks out there and doesn't throw punches, or this idea that if Deontay Wilder isn't being aggressive, you're going, oh man, he might be mentally up here, not in this fight. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, you're looking for that.
See the smile.
Also, because I'm thinking from the part of Herndon, do you just try to jump on him early, trying to, give him the PTSD from being knocked out and maybe make him ask himself questions of, do you still want to be here? Might as well do a kamikaze style. I mean, Herndon, you're there. You're just being there is a plus. Might as well give it a shot.
I just got visions of Helenius doing that when he attacked Wilder and gets iced in one round.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
I mean,
do you
Chris,
wait and let Wilder
I
get
like
into a
Paulie's
groove?
answer. What is the answer, Chris? If you want to test somebody mentally,
kamikaze sometimes didn't do that much damage. They just blew themselves up. And sometimes they did more damage.
Historically, very, very true. But here's what I'm saying, Chris, is what is the answer? Paulie's like, hey, go out there, throw some punches. See if this guy mentally wants to be there. Do you put physical pressure without throwing a lot? What's your answer?
I think you old man it. I think you keep the pace really slow. I think you make it rough and ugly on the inside. You tie up.
But then isn't old manning it allowing Wilder to sort of get his bearings together too?
I think you let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
With a guy like Wilder who doesn't seem to have that killer instinct lately. You don't want to wake him up. Don't go punch him in the face. Because listen, Wilder's not the kind of guy.
Punch him in the chest.
This is the boxing advice. Don't punch the guy. Don't punch him in the face.
But Wilder's not the kind of... He's not the kind of...
How many times I got to tell you?
You're not going to walk across the ring and knock Wilder out. Like, he's not that kind of guy. He's not that kind of guy. So, like, it's... And Herndon's not that kind of guy either. So, I think, man, I think you keep it... Look, I'm going to use word you used really well the other night. Pesky. Pesky. Joseph Parker was really pesky when he fought Wilder, and Wilder just was disarmed. He couldn't land his punch. He didn't throw a lot of punches at all. I think Herndon should study that fight and be like, I'm gonna be that guy, and don't be Robert Helenius and run right at him, because that dude. I don't care what you say about Wilder. He still got that thing. It's there. That revolver can still fire.
The punch is the last thing
that doesn't go.
My generation, somebody my age, would go no mas it. Frustrate him, make Duran. Duran just kind of threw up his hands.
Make him realize you don't want to be there.
Is that part of it? And how do you do that in the heavyweight division against a guy, as Chris said, still has the right hand? How do you be pesky, Paul?
You got to try to back him up in ways where you don't run into a shot. Wilder's not great punching going backwards, but going at him to make him go backwards is taking a chance.
Yeah, you've got
to be pesky. You got to be crafty. You got to old man it in that way. Or you kamikaze it. I mean, the reason I say kamikaze it is because this guy's been knocked out by Jagba. He's been knocked out by Torres. So if Wilder knocks him out, who cares? But if he's able to land the shot and even put Wilder down, even if he loses at that point, now I got Wilder down, even though he beat me, So, you may create something for yourself where you say, okay, I didn't win, but I exposed a little bit, and now I can put myself in a situation to maybe fight somebody else. And Wilder moves on as well. I mean, listen, we're curious. We're going to definitely tune in because Wilder has that name and that profile, but we'll see where it goes.
Has anybody been paying attention to Wilder's interviews? Because he's been doing the media rounds.
What is he doing?
Interesting stuff, man.
What's he saying?
He's definitely certainly not the same guy in terms of like the old school where he's bomb squad and very aggressive. Mm-hmm. He's definitely a lot more chill. Yeah. He's like...
Is that the ayahuasca?
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe some of the psychedelics have
helps
changed
out. Okay.
The brain chemistry, but seems a lot calmer, understands where he's at. But he's got some interesting ideas too. But definitely check out some of these interviews.
I got some names for you guys. Kevin McBride. Danny Williams, the guys who, Orlin Norris, the guys who picked the bones of an aging, shot Mike Tyson. We don't remember those guys, right? We remember Mike.
Yeah.
It didn't do a lot for those
Even
guys.
Trevor
Actually, it
Burbank
did.
in
They made little careers out of themselves. They made some money.
Right. So this idea, and that's the launching pad for my question. What does it do for Herndon to beat? Because those are names people go, isn't that the guy who beat up Mike Tyson last?
Yeah.
It's this idea that, you might get a little bump, but if you're not a great heavyweight, you're not a great heavyweight. What does it do for Herndon to pick the bones? Let's say he does, if he pesky's it, or if he kamikazes it and gets a win.
More paydays. It's more paydays.
Couple more?
It's a couple more paydays. It's bragging rights for life. It's free beers at your local pub.
Yeah.
McBride,
maybe he hasn't paid for a beer in a while,
Yeah, maybe.
McNeely, he still has to pay.
Yeah.
McBride, no, but McNeely has to pay.
McNeely has to pay for his beer.
Yeah, he got knocked out in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
McBride, on the other hand, they can go to the same pub. I bet you McBride doesn't pay, McNeely has to pay.
I guarantee that's the case.
There is no other way to button this segment at all than, he'll never pay for a beer again. But can he do it? And the question is, can, of course, Deontay Wilder become Bomb Squad yet again? We find out in a couple days. And as it makes news, you'll see it right here on the Boxing Scene Today. Tune in, join us, find out why millions are watching. You don't pay for beer, do you?
Never.
Never.